Okay. Yeah. It's recording.
Is this good news or bad news?
It's good news.
Okay.
Hello, Clinton. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. You guys look great. You're radiant, shining, intelligent, bright edge worker beings. God, you're not supposed to laugh. No, I'm speaking the truth while I'm speaking my story.
You also look great. Yeah.
That's because I'm in Brazil.
Maybe some of our viewers don't know who you are. So maybe can you say something about yourself and what you're doing?
My name is Clinton Callahan. I'm an author of a couple of books that have been published. One is called Radiant Joy, Brilliant Love, and another is called Directing the Power of Conscious Feelings. And the Radiant Joy, Brilliant Love book and Conscious Feelings book are both available in German and are being also translated into French, and maybe some Spanish also. So look forward to that. Since 20 years ago, we've invented a game world. A context of radical responsibility has emerged into what we call possibility management. So we have about 30 or so trainers who are holding a training called Expand the Box training and possibility labs and workshops and possibility coaching sessions for people in more and more countries, where building bridges and facilitating the shift to next culture. And so it's thoughtware upgrade work a lot, but it also has to do with adulthood initiatory processes. Modern culture doesn't initiate us into adulthood. We're left disempowered as adolescents because then we can't organize ourselves and we're easily subdued and controlled that way. So whenever the people come to the edge of the limits of modern culture and realize this is not enough for me, it's not working for me, it's not good enough for me, then all of a sudden they start looking around and more and more people are finding, for example, possibility management and finding that there are ways for them to become more themselves, like take their authority back from external authority figures and bring their center back into their 5 bodies and get their voice back and get their feelings back, and then actually jack into an archetypal lineage and bright principles that are huge forces of nature that are there as resources to empower them to deliver what they came into the world to deliver. And that's what we've been doing more and more effectively in the last 20 years.
What I wanted to ask you, where you are right now.
So the Earth Coincidence Control Office has been moving us around from Mallorca and Portugal, and now we're in Brazil. We've been here for a few weeks, and we're delivering our second Expand the Box training next week. And the Brazilian people are really geniuses. There's this weird pirate nature. You know, the pirates used to live here, and they were slaves, you know, and there were people conquered by the Portuguese and all this. And they have this energy in them of being able to kind of looking for whatever works. So when we show up here and we bring CircleWay technologies, you know, how to meet in circles, make decisions, how to include people, how to move from this hierarchical structure to a circle structure, you know, and how to bring in group intelligence. And they love it. They're just really eating it up. Last night we were at this hub, impact hub, and we had 60 people. We were talking about CircleWays stuff. It was great.
And it's new for them, or this?
Yeah.
The knowledge is completely new, and they are so interested in.
Well, you know, there's indigenous around, and indigenous meet in circle, but the indigenous also have a hierarchy. You understand? You know, there's the elders.
Yeah.
There's the ancestors, there's the chief, and they have this hierarchy. Even though they meet in a circle, there's this really a strong protocol, and the protocol is hierarchical. So they're not familiar with liberating all of themselves at the same time in a circle. So, you know, we have these Taurus technology ways for everybody to go at the same time. And this huge intelligence is released all at the same time. You don't have to wait for one person to speak and then the next person to speak and the next person to speak. Really, everybody can speak at the same time, and then the intelligence is in the space, and then it's in the whole circle, and then it can be used. But if you have to wait one at a time, people fall asleep, people forget, people wait. You know, it's different. So it's new for them. It's new, but they have an openness to it.
And how does it fit together, the hierarchical structure of natural that you talked about and the circle way?
Well, it doesn't. The indigenous circle way is hierarchical, but people still have the idea of the circle. So it's an opening. It's an introduction to the possibility of a circle. Because modern culture is all hierarchical. The corporations, the government, everything is a hierarchy. And so you basically be a slave in the hierarchy, or you try to be a pirate and go around the rules. And so that's the description of Brazilian culture, kind of, those two options. But now they have this third option, is to come together in other kinds of circles where they can participate, and there is no hierarchy. There's this space holders, and they're liberated, and it's just fantastic. So they're really excited about it.
And what did you mean with Taurus technology? You said something about Taurus energy? Or?
Yeah, Taurus is a three-dimensional circle. You know, a normal circle is just like a ring, but a torus is a ring made out of circles. You take a bunch of circles, and so the circles move around. It's a circle made out of circles. And that's the kind of meetings that we've been doing and bringing into eco-villages and other projects. But we have a website called taurustechnology.org, and it explains the basic torus function, which actually breathes. It goes into divergence, and individual groups meet, and then convergence, where they all come together and share. So it's breathing like this. And then when they come together, there are these processes like the frying pan process, or poop on the table process, or the mess process. There's these different processes that are really fantastic for handling all this stuff that needs to happen between people in an elegant and complete way, you know, to actually handle this stuff. So that's part of Taurus technology. It's a set of tools to use in a circle.
So you really developed your techniques further, as I hear.
Yes. God, we've got to make another movie. Come on, you guys. I'm serious. You know, I have a dream. I have a wish. And the wish is that people could watch your movie one time and it would just go whoosh into them, and they would be able to use, you know, the forum and M. Scott Peck's process, you know, and all of this stuff, and all the possibility management stuff, you know, and to use it just by watching the film. And I know it's not like that. I know that your film has like 12 doorways in it. The film is, somebody who watches the film has to choose which kind of doorway they're going to go through, because it takes some work to go through a doorway and start practicing and learn the distinctions and learn the tools and learn the thought maps, and be able to implement any of the circular meeting technologies that you guys were offering in the film. The film is fantastic. It's like a menu. You know, once you order the menu, once you pick one of the things, then you have to eat it. You know, it takes a while to eat it. So, and all, you know, it's inspiring. The film is inspiring. It has so much actual, you know, hands-on. You can see this stuff working. You get an image of people actually doing the processes. So it isn't so much theory in terms of a concept or an idea. It's more like a taste. It's like going to an ice cream store and they give you these little spoons. You can taste this and taste that and taste this, and you go, now I want the whole thing, you know. So yeah, so it's really it's a great film. We're gonna be on the team watching it tomorrow here in like an eco-village place here in Brazil, Florianópolis.
Oh yeah, fine.
Yeah.
And what you said reminds me, because this is why we packed this interview package, right, what we sell now. So in there are all the interviews that are used in the film, so that you can, if you are interested in one spoon you set up in one taste, you can get into. And we are try to also to translate the interviews in English. It's still not now every interview in English, but this is also what was our goal to do that.
Yeah, it's great because your speakers are wonderful speakers. Yeah, I know some of them, and they're just treasure chests full of clarity and possibility. They're all trainer types. You know, their ability to explain and instruct and support and be a bridge, to build the bridges for people to go across. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. Yeah.
I've got one question because. As you saw the subtitle of our movie, we said it's the journey to next culture. And you probably know where the name comes from, because it comes from you. You were inspired from your possibility management.
This is open code thoughtware, buddies. It's open code thoughtware. It's all copy left. Yeah, this is what. Yes. There's the cover of a book by Daniel Wall, who's associated with the Global Eco-Village Network. And he made a cover of his book. It's about building regenerative cultures. So it's a fantastic book. The cover of his book is this symbol that we have of the circle and the infinity sign inside. And it's also the same thing, you know. So I think a lot of this is archetypal in a way. Like how else do you call the culture that comes after matriarchy and patriarchy? You know, well, you can call it archiarchy. Well, people never heard of this word. You know, you have to explain that archiarchy is this amazing regenerative culture of archetypally initiated women creatively collaborating with archetypally initiated men, which is a completely different culture than patriarchy or matriarchy. But at first people can't they can't wrap their mind around archiarchy. So then, well, it's next culture. This is the culture that comes next. And so it's a bridge word, and it's fantastic. I think it's a journey to next culture is perfect. So I'm so glad that, you know, because we're on the same page, you know, this is a team. It's one, you know, it's a circle of circles. So we're all working together to create this, making this happen. And I think there's a lot more people than I thought of who are doing this. Because I came here to Brazil, we went to the Impact Hub. I said, how many people here are building bridges to next culture? 3/4 of the people put their hand up. These people are out there doing one way or another. You know, maybe they're making an app program, or maybe they have a program with school children, or taking kids out of school or bringing them into the forest school. Or there's so many programs that people are working on, refugee camps, all these things, and they're working towards making bridges to next culture. So I think there are so many people working on this, and what we need is like films and language and maps, like ideas like the CircleWay, to all talk together and to know that other people are doing the same kind of work as us, that their hearts are dedicated, their souls are dedicated, their lives are dedicated to building these bridges to next culture.
I had the question in my mind, how you look to the world is at the moment. So, like a general view, do you have now? Or what it is, how you feel in the moment about what's going on in general in the world? Yeah.
What's your real question?
So
I could talk for 5 days about that. So tell me what you really think. What's your real question?
So my opinion about the situation now is that it's getting more and more extreme. Also the negative thing, but as we know, also the positive things are growing so well, so big. And I'm interested if you see the same, or what is your opinion about that?
I think it's this. I think human beings don't change our behavior until it hurts too much to do it the old way. And I think that both the pressure the pain are getting higher, and people's willingness to change or try new things is getting higher. And I don't know which one's going to win. It's a big question for me. So since I don't know, I have to keep trying everything that I can. So when I find there's a barrier for people to get across, and it's this barrier of denial or barrier of a fantasy world that the government will solve things, technology will solve things. It isn't really as bad as the scientists are telling us, that the aliens are going to come, you know, something's going to happen, and I can just keep living my ordinary life. And, you know, as Venice, as the people in Venice are walking halfway up to their chest in water, and it's never been that high before, you know, never. And so they know that you can see on the buildings, the watermark of where the water is, how high it's gotten before. It's never been that high before. And the fires burning here in Brazil have never been like that before. And in Australia, Sydney, you know, the whole New South Wales is just burning. It's just it's approaching Sydney. It's unprecedented. On and on and on. That the predictions we heard 5 or 10 years ago are coming true. This is a shocking confrontation with reality. So it's like fantasy worlds are hitting reality, and people don't know what to do. I mean, we know who's going to win. You know, reality is going to prevail. Reality will prevail. When it hits a fantasy world, reality prevails. It doesn't matter how amazing the Hollywood movies are. You know, we have so many. I mean, that's one of my biggest pains about, if human beings go extinct, we will lose all these amazing Hollywood movies. You know, one of my biggest losses, you know, about the human beings is, God, we have the Star Wars movie will not keep going. You know, this will be bad. So this confrontation between reality and the fantasy worlds is in our favor of expanding consciousness. It's in the favor of growing up. And so part of me wants the pain to get higher faster. But in a way, people have this numbness bar. And especially in the big cities, the numbness bar is very high because there's so much sound and so intense information and so many people and so much impressions coming in. In order to survive in a city, people have to have their numbness bar very high. I was just in Rio de Janeiro, and even in the cafes, it's like 60 decibels. I mean, the cooling equipment, the air conditioners, the trucks going by, the people shouting at each other. It's to sit in a peaceful cafe, you need earplugs, and it's just hugely intense. So people more and more move into cities, and then they have to raise their numbness bar up. And then then they can't feel the pain of species going extinct, or the pain of that Evo Morales had a coup in Bolivia, and he had to leave the country, and the people with guns came in, and like there's insane things going on. There's really insane things going on, and we don't take action until we feel the pain of it. And so there's this conflict of this high numbness bar and our fantasy worlds, and the reality of what's roaring down upon us like an avalanche of all directions, of things falling apart and things failing and things coming apart. It's just, it's intense. And oh yeah, I keep voting for human beings. You know, I keep voting for us to wake up, you know, because it's not our planet. It is not our planet. And those people who control the money system or control the armies, they are not our leaders. these people are not our leaders. They are psychopath type people who have climbed hierarchical structures and are doing gremlin games. They're doing irresponsible actions to win and so that others lose. And it's like, this is not our leaders and it's not our planet. So there's a whole shift of worldview that can only take place when people sit like we're doing now in a circle and really feel the intensity of the pain of, gosh, maybe I'll try something different. Maybe I'll try something else. I don't know. I was thinking, you know, this shirt that I'm wearing, I got it in New Zealand at a used clothing store. Cost me like $5 there in it, and I've been wearing it most of the time. And I see how many clothes are around that are being advertised and sold everywhere, and it's like, okay, oh, why are we doing this? Like, there's such a bizarre mismatch between what most people are involved in trying to produce more clothes, say, for example, and sell clothes and make clothes styles. And you guys are wearing a couple sweatshirts, and I'm wearing this old shirt, and it's like if we create new game worlds that make the old game worlds irrelevant, the old game worlds will collapse. They will just fall apart. And so this is what we're doing in our work, is we're trying to empower people to build the new game worlds that make the old game worlds irrelevant. And so, and each time I come together in a project or with people to build new game worlds, it's in a circle. It is in a circle, only circles. And so it's like your movie is a red carpet rolling out for people to just walk down this path towards a bright future, a brighter future.
So you still think that the pain and the pressure of the pain is needed to change something. But my thought is to create these new game worlds, to create other possibilities, it's not just need fear or pressure of pain. It also needs creativity. So I cannot fit it together, because it's on the other side is the pain to change something, and it's needed. I also have the opinion that it's needed in a way, but I think we can just really create the better things if we are not so much in pain and not so much in fear, because then we are not so creative.
Yes, we went to school. And in school, we were trained not to create anything, not to be a problem, not to ask questions. We were trained to shut down our imagination, to cut off from all our resources. We're trained to be robots and zombies. That's what happens in school. So it does take, you have to break rules. It takes courage to create something. So yes, it can be fun, or yes, it can be rewarding, but there's so few people who trust themselves enough to create something, to implement something new. You know, even people going home for Christmas get scared because they face their parents. And even if they have just kind of done a small change in their lives from their parents, they're afraid to even talk to their parents when they go home for Christmas. So imagine inventing a whole new section of society, of culture, of business, of ways of doing business, of inventing a new currency, of ways of exchange, ways to spend your time besides watching TV or buying stuff. You know, if you've invented new things, it takes real courage to bring that out in the world. People can laugh at you. People make fun of you. Ha ha, you're an idiot. You're strange. You're stupid. It will never work. These are huge social forces that a person needs to walk into and to present new stuff or create new stuff. So create a next culture takes huge courage, and it isn't something simple. It isn't easy. We've not been trained. You know, if you homeschool your kids, if you get homeschooled, then since birth, you're able to deliver what you came here to deliver. You are not conforming to 14 years of a prison colony where you have to sit in a prison for 14 years and sit in a hard chair and just do what the prison owners say. You know, you get to find out how to do what you came here to do for 14 years instead. And then you will make mistakes, you will experiment, you will do naturally, you will produce new stuff, and it'll be a joy. But since the modern culture program sends us to school and tells us to not create, but rather to follow, to copy, to imitate, to do what you're told, to obey, it's difficult to pull yourself up by your ears, you know, and start flying. You know, it takes something to do that. So, you know, this is our profession. I'm doing that all day long, basically, wherever I go. We're empowering people to invent new things. And it's not as easy as there's so many fears people have, so many wounds that are not healed, so many old decisions they made of, I will never speak out again. I will never take a risk again. I will never lead again. I will never stand up and say what I really want again, because they got criticized or judged or punished or something like that. So it's a huge thing for people to actually go ahead. And if anybody wants to take something from this little part of the film, it's like, go ahead, break the rules, be a pirate, you know. Actually, we have a website called Asshole Training. It's like how to be an asshole. Like if you can't disagree with an authority, then you're just a slave. You're just a possession. And so, but to disagree with an authority, you're an asshole. So this is our definition of an asshole, is to be able to consciously, intentionally disagree with an authority and go a different path. Then you're an asshole. So Asshole Training is one of our popular websites.
New culture.
So in this process of going or creating a new culture, just yesterday I had to think about, because I experienced it for so many times during this project, that we had to go into a space, or that I had to go into a space where I just don't know, like, because the old one is dying, and so my old world is dying, or the old culture is dying, and on the other hand, the new culture is not fully there already. So there's like a space between where I just don't know, and I think for me this. I feel a lot of fear for this space of not knowing. And I was wondering what you think about what you could tell us about.
Yeah. You went to school, obviously. You know,
Yes.
in school, I'm serious, in school, there is one main value that we are taught for 14 years. It's pounded into us every which way. There is one value, and that value is to know. And if the teacher calls on you and asks you a question, and you don't know, this is the biggest embarrassment. It's the biggest pressure. It's the biggest fear. People have nervous breakdowns. When somebody will say their name, they go, oh, teacher's gonna call on me, and I don't even know what they're gonna ask. Oh my God, you know. Really, we're so afraid of this. It's in our system. And so we've been experimenting with that. And if you drew a map, for example, of the entire universe, like let's say this is the entire universe, and these are all the possible things to know in our universe. It's huge, it's vast. Okay, how many of those things do you already know?
Just...
Yeah, you end up with this tiny, tiny little, you know, like this tiny, like even you can't even, this is how much we know. Okay, so where do you want to live? You want to live in this little thing, or you want to live out here, you know, in this huge space? And the mind goes crazy because it's like, yeah, I don't know all that stuff. How can I go there? Like, so for the one thing, not knowing is bad. And not only that, not knowing is scary. And not only that, but if you start behaving as if you can use the unknown as a resource in your daily life, people will think you're crazy. It doesn't make sense in the context of school and knowing, where knowing is the truth, knowing is the real thing, knowing is the reality. And the unknown was so there it's possible to, within an hour, you guys could be practice up, you turn on a different part of your brain that has direct access to the unknown, and I can ask you questions for which there is no right answer. There is no known answer. And after a little practice, I can ask you these questions, and you can answer these questions by letting the unknown speak through you. Because it's a huge resource. You don't know here, but out there, the unknown has access to this. So I can ask you questions like, if an elephant came in the room right now, what would he be thinking? And you could tell me, and it's not a fantasy world. It would make a difference to me. I could say, where do lawyers go when they die? And you could come up and you could tell me where they go. And I would learn something from it. You know, I could say, what would make it so that the next moment would be the most precious moment of our lives? And you could start answering that. And there is no known answer. There's no right answer to these questions. But you can let the unknown speak through you as a resource in your daily life. And all of a sudden, the condition of being in the unknown feels like home. It's a bigger home than the known part. It has a lot more space, a lot more possibility, a lot more abundance and richness, and just energy. It's really a lot. So I encourage you to start practicing this new skill and heal yourself from school. In Portugal next year in March or something, February, March, we're going to do a 5-day laboratory based on healing school wounds and school being crippled by school. We're going to do a 5-day lab focused on that.
So we are already planning our next documentary.
Whoa!
And it's going to be about a different schooling system.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh,
so
great!
We want to take on these topics, and yeah.
Hey, great! There's a website we have called quitschool.org, and
you get so many websites.
We have 267 websites, and they're all seriously, and they're all linked together. They're all like, it's a new kind of a learning environment. It's like a different kind of a book. So you're reading through this one website and go, what is that? And you click on that, you go to another website. And then you find something there, you click on that, you go to another website. And it's so great because you get your questions answered right when you need them answered. Like if you're reading a regular book, you have to follow along what the author is saying, blah, blah. You have to wait until he says what you really want to know. But in this, it's a bubble net. It's a net of bubbles, like foam bath. And all these websites are one big blob, and you can go from anywhere to anywhere through these links. And so it's a new kind of learning for people. And so one of them is called quitschool.org. And it has a huge bunch of videos. Some of my favorite books are in there. And it's very inspiring in terms of empowering you to step out of the paradigm where school is the only answer.
So would you prefer homeschooling, or what do you think about
unschooling?
Unschooling.
There's a distinction between homeschooling and unschooling.
Yeah.
Like, for example, my daughters were both homeschooled. They were home birthed and homeschooled their whole lives. There was one point where my older daughter, she said, she was like 13, 14 years old, and she had some friends that were in school. She goes, Dad, I want to go to school. I go, what for? She goes, well, to see what it's like, to see what my friends go there. I just want to see what it's like. I said, great. So she gets on the bus for 3 months. She goes to school every day. This was in France. She's going to school every day in France for 3 months. And after 3 months, she comes home and says, Dad, I go, yeah. She goes, Dad, I want to quit school. I go, great, why? She goes, well, I don't have time for my life. And so, and so she already knew what her life was about. When she's 14 years old, she already knew. And so she knew before then. So anyway, it turned out when we first started, we were doing homeschooling. We had a program, it was a correspondence school. And so we would have different structure and outline of what should be learned at what year and all that kind of stuff. But the children, they played along for a while, but then they realized how much they really loved to be alive. They loved to be alive and to create and invent and discover and do what moved them, like what fed them. They knew this already. It fed them. And they would wake up in the morning bright and early, and they were outside, building, creating, trying, experimenting, and they were doing what fed them. And so I started having pain about trying to stop them from doing what's feeding them, to force them to sit down and read from a curriculum about, whatever, some mathematical equation or something, and it was like, I couldn't do it anymore. So I would secretly stop doing it. And so I would forget to homeschool them. And so this got bigger and bigger, and pretty soon they would come to me. And this is also when the internet was emerging, and they were starting to go, Dad, they said, Dad, we need a barn. We need to build a barn. I said, okay, draw me a barn design. So they figured out this whole structure for this barn design, for 6 horse stalls and a barn design. I go, God, shit, they did it. And they go, Dad, we want to build this barn. I go, okay. Well, okay, you need to see these things. These are foundations. You have to dig holes that are this big around and this deep in the mud. It's hard clay. You need 18 of those so we can use those for the foundation. And I thought that would stop them. So I had to go, I came back like after the weekend, and they had dug 18 holes in this hard clay. I go, Dad, what's next? I go, okay, well, you need cement. You need to put in the cement as a foundation. Go, how do you make cement? I go, God, well, it's 1 part cement, 2 parts sand, and 3 parts gravel. And they say, where do we get this? Well, you guys speak French, get it delivered here. So they go, Dad, we need to get the money. Well, how are you going to get the money? Well, we're going to do horse lessons. So they took care of other people's horses and gave horse lessons, and they got enough money to buy all the sand, cement, and gravel, and wood, and roofing materials, and everything. And then they poured the cement, and then I go, I forgot to tell you one thing. And I go, what? Well, you made your little foundation on a hill, and all of the cement things, they need to be even. They go, Dad, you didn't tell us this. And I go, no problem. You just cut the vertical things so they're shorter over here and longer over here, so they had to figure out all these measurements. Anyway, they built the barn. They built it. They built the whole thing. So, they power saws, drills. It's like, so this is unschooling. Unschooling is make your life happen, and find out what your life is and make it happen. And so many people, they keep going back to school to get a master's degree or a doctorate degree because they still don't know what their life is, and they still don't know how to make it happen. So if they stay in school long enough, then they're safe. But life is out there. Life and the corners is going to get you, and so someday you'll be out of school and it will get you then. So why? Yeah. So that's the difference between homeschooling and unschooling, is that the unschooling life leads rather than some curriculum. And I really am in favor of unschooling.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's also my experience. When I came out of school, I needed 10 years to figure out what I want to do in the world. So.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, really, I was just talking last night at the talk to 3 different women who are single moms, basically. So even a nuclear family, to have children in a nuclear family is in a way neurotic and crazy, but to be a single mom and raise kids in modern culture is completely insane. It is completely insane to try to be a single mom. So really, ideally, people invent circles of single moms, or basically build the village. So it's about village building. So village is a circle. So it's a thing that we've been doing is every time we're working in a circle, we start speaking about it as a village. And a village has certain requirements. So it isn't like you don't want it to be too imbalanced. The circle needs to have the 4 archetypal lineages. So intimacy navigators is sadness. The guardians is anger. The evolutionaries is fear. And it's the 4th one. And the game world builders is joy, basically. And you need those 4 working together. And it's funny because the guardians will sort of naturally fight against the evolutionaries, because the evolutionaries are the ones who want to make things happen and evolve and change, whereas the guardians want to keep things the same. And so you have these forces inside, and so the village weavers come and bring them together and make the evolution possible, even though the guardians, get evolved. Guardians don't like to be evolved, but they have to. So, and the evolutionaries don't like to be guarded, for example, but they have to. So anyway, so if you start thinking of your circle as a village, then you start realizing that you need the components. You need a full diversity of agency of the people who are able to do things and serve the village. So education is the same. Child raising is the same. It's like we can't really compartmentalize schooling and child raising separately from the village, because it's not. It's a crazy thing to think it's separate from the village. And so there are places where they block off roads. They just take over the roads. And instead of, for example, in Colorado, in America, they're starting to, in Boulder, Colorado, they're starting to meet inside the town in certain villages. So in a village, you have 20 or 30 towns coming out of the neighborhood. So you don't want too many people in your village. 100 is pretty many. So 60 is the ideal number for a village, a little tribe. And so you get the people living in the houses come together in about groups of 60, and then they block off the streets and make it into a circle. And they park the cars on the outside and then take up the road. And then you have, grass, or you have trees, you have a park, you put in a pond, you have, play games. And with the kids, it's like kids culture. So when I was traveling in northern Thailand back in the 1980s, I went up into the hill tribes of northern Thailand. And up there are these tribes who you can't get there except by foot. There's no roads. You have to walk by foot and take a boat up the river and go walking by foot, or elephant. You can ride on an elephant there. And I was hanging out there, and this roving band of kids came to see the white people, because the white people were new. They were interesting. And they were like from 12 years old all the way down to probably 3 or 4 years old. And I thought that the older kids would be holding the babies, but it was the 3 or 4-year-old kids who were holding the babies. So the baby, there was no parents having to do childcare, because there was children's culture that was alive and functioning as a learning machine. So the child's culture as a learning machine would rove around, and the older ones would kind of lead it, and they would go different places to whatever was most interesting. So they came to us, and we showed the older kid a certain knot in a rope or something like that. And instantly he taught the younger one, and he showed the next one, and they showed the next one. And it's this learning machine. So like modern school divides the kids up by age, right? Completely sick. It's really off, because this children's learning machine, the older ones teach the younger ones, and that's how the older ones get it. And as new younger ones come in, the older ones go out and they start dating, or they start going off, they're replaced. And so it was just incredible. I mean, like I wanted to use a toilet. And this is a different story, but I had to go to the toilet, I go, where's the toilet? And they say, well, just use the bushes. And I'm going, God, this is weird, because, here's a village that's been here for 100 or 1,000 years, and they don't even have a toilet, and they just say use the bushes. Well, it must be really stinky out there or really bad. I go out into the bushes, I find nothing. And so I'm out there, taking a shit in the middle of these bushes, and all of a sudden I hear this, and this big pig comes up behind me and goes, "Hurry up, I'm hungry." Oh no, this is what happened. This is God. And then they served us pig for dinner, so I didn't have any. But like we tried to take a shower, and the shower was this little tiny bamboo tube that came out of the rocks. So we hiked down, and all these kids just followed us. And so they just wanted to see the white people take a shower. That's all. And so I don't know what they learned, but I learned that I could take a shower with a bunch of kids watching me. It was pretty funny. Anyway, the whole kids culture in a village is, when you let it loose, it isn't loud and distorted and wild like the kids are that you would think from if you went by a schoolyard today. You go by a schoolyard today and you hear all these kids screaming at each other, and there's adults trying to keep them from beating each other up and all that. Well, it's just a prison scene. It's just like being in a prison, But if you let it wild in the village, it's such a healthy evolutionary learning machine. It's really incredible, really. So I'm very glad about your project.
You gave me some new inspirations.
Okay. Yeah, we need a lot of inspiration about that. And again, it's going to be this courage to break the rules. It's going to be the courage to just step out and do something that you think is best, even if your neighbors aren't, or the law says something, or the custom is like this. You have to forget all that. Really, it's time to forget all that. This thing, the rule of law of modern civilization is exterminating life on Earth at the maximum possible rate. You get that? The rule of law of modern civilization is exterminating life on Earth at the maximum possible rate. Anybody who follows the rule of law of modern civilization is criminally insane. And anybody who enforces the rule of law of modern civilization have already forfeited their life, because they're exterminating life on Earth, and they're supporting the system that exterminates life on Earth. You have forfeited your life. And if you have that clarity, then it's no problem to break the rules. It's no problem to do something that's better or different, or that you got to try, even though if it comes out of the unknown. Of course it's going to come out of the unknown, because modern culture only teaches itself. It duplicates itself. It doesn't duplicate something new. Can't do that. So it's up to you guys. It's up to us to invent the new things. And it will happen in circles. That's the one thing that's true. It's going to happen in small circles around the world. And it's happening in small circles around the world.
It's already happening, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it feels like the end right now. It was like wonderful. Yeah. Is there anything more you want to say to our viewers?
Yes, I have a lot of things I'd like to say. I would really like people to start going into this 267 websites that we have online. Not all of them are full, but a lot of them have cool stuff in it. And there are not so many sources of information that are so abundant and rich and ongoing as this network of websites. Because, I watched your film and it was over in an hour and 15 minutes or something, right? Yeah. I go, well, I could watch it again and again, but it's still, that's all it is. It's like it goes through an hour and 15 minutes, then it's over. So, okay, now what? What do I do after I watch CircleWays film? Well, you go to this website. It's called startover.xyz. And you start going into this bubble net of websites, and each one of them has experiments to do. Well, the experiments keep going. it's not over in an hour and 15 minutes. You go in and you try something totally weird and different inside of you or outside of you, the way you are, what you're noticing, what you're paying attention to, where your center is, how you interact, the doorways that you open for people, the opportunities you make, the turns you make. Like, here's your habitual path and go this way instead. You say one idea, well, say 10 ideas. Like, you answer a question linear or you answer it nonlinear. You answer from the known, you answer from the unknown. There's all these experiments to do. And when you start doing those, they don't end. They don't come to a stop. And then you do the next experiment, you do the next experiment. You're building up matrix points that holds more consciousness, and that's where next culture comes from. That's where archaearchy comes from. So I wanted to say that after people have watched your movie's a gateway or a doorway into all these worlds. Well, there's a lot of worlds that people don't know about, just waiting for them online right now, anywhere in the world, open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for no charge. They are free to play, massively multiplayer, online and offline, personal transformation, thoughtware upgrade game called startover.xyz. So I just want to invite people to do that and have a great time. Let us know what they need. And thank you for doing your work. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for showing us tomorrow what's going to happen. And I look forward to being there with the team here in Brazil. We're excited about watching it.
Wow.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. Please, could you send us the links and we will put them on our website?
Cool. Yeah,
so
I'll do that.
click on it.
Yeah, it's great. I'll do that.
I'm thankful that we had contact, that it was able to have this conversation now. And I'm happy to always have the feeling when I'm hear you talking or talking with you, that the future is so grabbable, also feelable, and that you, I know, it's like a feeling when you're talking about what is possible, it seems like it's still here. So it's not far away. It's still happening, and this is what I want to appreciate really a lot, and what I enjoy when I'm in contact with you. Yeah.
Okay then. Stay in contact.
Yeah.
See you guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye, Clinton.
See you. Ciao.